You can't change your life from the identity that created what you have and who you are today. Hello, my friends. My name is Katie, and I help you remember your power, reconnect the divine within you so that you can build a beautiful life from the inside out. Let's talk today about identity. Why we struggle so much when we want to make changes in our life. What most people do and think is when they have a goal, they think, okay, I have this goal. I want to achieve this thing in my life. I want to climb Mount Everest. They go to start this goal and they make attempts, but they can't seem to figure out why it's so difficult and why they get burned out and why they keep quitting and starting and quitting. And they feel like it doesn't feel authentic. They want to do it, but they keep feeling like block or resistance. The reason is that when you're trying to create a new life, it requires you to change the beliefs that you have about yourself. And that's what most of people miss, is that your identity, who you believe yourself to be, created the life that you have today. We're very programmed to think that our outer world is the cause of how we feel and think inside. So what happens is we take an action towards a goal, and then we feel like we feel stuck and we can't keep moving forward, and we blame the outside world. We blame the fact that we don't have time, we don't have resources, we have things that are stealing our energy. But what we don't do is reverse that and see that what is running your life and what is creating the actions you take is who you believe you are today. So let's say that you want to climb Mount Everest. From early on in your life, you've just had this dream. You want to climb Mount Everest. You don't hike. You're not a climber. And you identify as someone who says, I'm not a climber, but you have this desire. So when you go to try to climb, your belief says, well, I'm not a climber. I'm not a climber. So what happens is our mind will look and only allow us to really take the actions that are consistent with what we believe about ourselves. In order to achieve that desire, you have to become what you desire to achieve. Dr. Dispenza talks about our inner reality creates our outer reality. Who you believe you are inside will create the life you live. And here's what most of us do, where most of us are conditioned to see ourselves based on our past. So we have past experiences, what was programmed into us by society and caregivers. So we had formed an identity about who we are. You have these beliefs based on your past experiences. And our beliefs are decisions that are just made over and over and hardwired into us that create our thoughts and our actions that come out of that. And so we keep living out of the past, creating that in the present, reinforcing that old identity, what we believe about ourselves, those limitations that we have. Most people believe that identity is fixed, that it's just who you are. I'm just a perfectionist. I'm just a screw up. I'm not reliable. I don't finish things. I'm not an author. I'm not a speaker. I'm not a mountain climber. Because we see based on what was programmed into us in the past. But here's the thing. Our identity is not fixed. And this is what trips most people up. People have a goal and a desire. I want to write a book. And they go to start writing a book. But internally, they don't believe that they're an author. So they have a really hard time motivating themselves to take the action. because it's not consistent with what they believe internally. And so people will say things like, fake it till you make it. But, and that's where the imposter syndrome comes in, because you believe you're acting out of being fake. When in actuality, in order to change our life, we have to begin by living out of our future identity, not our past. Your identity is simply a, a deeply programmed set of beliefs that you likely were just programmed into you. They were decisions you made out of experiences in life that you went through. And we're never taught that we can change these beliefs by making new decisions about how we see ourselves. So rather than use the past to keep recreating the same circumstances in the present, what we can shift to do is begin creating a different present by focusing on a future version, the version you want to become, and bringing that into the present. So there's a simple exercise that you could do for this. You could write down, get a sheet of paper, and you could write on one side, today, I am whatever you think you are today. What your life is, who you are, were created from a set of beliefs about who you are. And in order to achieve that dream, that future version of you, you need to write a new set of beliefs that that version of you would embody today. So if you're an author, if you're a mountain climber, if you're a speaker, that version of you, she holds different beliefs about herself. She believes she's an author and she's writing. And what happens when we say, rather than say, I'm trying to be an author? Well, you don't, if you're a sports fan, say, I live in New York, so Buffalo Bills fans, people don't say, I'm trying to be a Bills fan. No, they embody the belief that they are a Bills fan, and you see it in the actions. Rooting, cheering, crazy, going to as many games as possible, feeling like that's family. It's so deeply rooted in their identity that people just will act out of that. They don't have to try because they believe that's who they are. And that's how we achieve the life we desire. We have to detach from the old identity, the set of programs and the beliefs. So you have to know that any of those beliefs, you can change them by detaching from them the past and seeing the version of yourself who is doing the things that you desire, and then begin to, on that paper, you have your current identity, what you believe about yourself, and then you have the version of you who's doing and living the life you desire, and think about what you would have to believe in order to be living that life. And you'll see the incongruence between what you believe and what that version of you believes. That's the thing that is so powerful. You can just decide. You don't have to say, I'm trying to be an author. I'm trying to be a hiker. I'm trying to be in shape. You decide. You make a new decision and you change that belief. And that's a simple decision, but it will require you to begin walking it out. James Clear says that every small action you take is a vote for the person that you want to become. And that's how our confidence is built. So you choose that new belief and you tell yourself, I am an author. And here's the thing, when you're first changing a belief, what's difficult for people is they feel like it's fake. They feel like I'm choosing to say I'm an author, I'm a speaker, I'm a YouTuber. but it doesn't feel real. One technique that's helped me, and this comes from Mind Valley, is to use lofty questions, because it actually helps our subconscious to accept the belief. So rather than say, I'm an author, I'm a powerful speaker, you ask yourself a question. Why am I such a powerful speaker? Because when you ask yourself the questions, it actually tells the brain that's who you already are. And then you start to take small actions. So you begin to think from that new identity. For the longest time, I wanted to start a YouTube channel. I wanted to speak. I wanted to share my experiences and my journey and just empower you to be able to change your life. But I couldn't seem to do that. I couldn't make the videos. I would go to make a video, but then I would just have so much pressure against it. So I thought, well, I guess I'm not that. I'm not that identity. I didn't see myself as having anything worthy of being heard because of my past experiences, because of having a childhood that I was ignored a lot, my needs were neglected. So then to take that set of beliefs and go and start creating videos and sharing my journey and helping people, it was completely out of alignment. Like the law of sustainment tells us that we can't sustain any action that is out of alignment with how we see ourselves. So I had to understand that my identity was just a set of programs that was put into me and beliefs, and that it wasn't fixed. It wasn't just, this is who I am. Your identity, your true identity, is this version of you who has the life you dream of. Your true divine self is so worthy of that abundant life. And you're living as this other version of you, like a lower self, because of the past programming. So begin to focus on your desire. Begin to focus on that future version of you, and begin to think from the future. This is the shift from the future, thinking there. Who is she? Who is that version of me? What does she feel like? What does she believe? And then begin to hold that belief. You're not faking it. This is the thing. You're not faking it till you make it. You are actually rewiring your brain to live from a new baseline. And as you begin to build that new baseline, you're rewiring your identity. And that's going to make it much easier for you to take the actions that actually draws what you desire to you and moves you towards it. That's how we change. And that's how we build the life we desire. And that's how we achieve our dreams. And that's how we become our true self. Begin to think of your future self. Begin to hold the identity. What is one identity shift that you could make this week? What is one desire that you have in the next 6 months? Something that maybe you have taken action on before and you've struggled and you've stopped and started. What is one thing that you desire to achieve? Begin to think about when you achieve that, what would you feel like inside? What would you believe about yourself? Would you feel confident? Would you feel powerful? Would you feel inner peace? And begin to hold that feeling and live out of that place today. And every time that censor ego brain kicks in and says, you're faking it, you're faking it, that's your old wiring. That's old wiring kicking in and saying, that's not who you are. And you continue to remind yourself, nope, I am an author, I'm a climber, I'm a successful business person. And you keep taking action out of that new belief. This is the work, my friends, and it's hard at first because we're actually rewiring new patterns, and our brain has this strong tendency to pull us into the old patterns. But once you continue taking action, you're building inner confidence. So you're building evidence that that new belief is true. You are practicing being that version of yourself. So when that thought comes up that you're faking it, imposter, this isn't who you are, reframe and tell yourself, I am practicing being that version of myself by how I think and how it will feel, and act as if it is already there. That's how we bring it into being in the 3D. This is the work, my friends, and I love sharing this with you because this has changed my life so dramatically. And I know if you are consistent in working on your inner world, changing your beliefs, working on a new paradigm for how you see the world and you see yourself, you're going to transform your whole life. And I have no doubt that you will do it. I have faith in you and I love you. And I'll see you in the next episode.